What happens when a lone wildlife rescuer faces off against armed poachers to save an injured gorilla? You won't believe how the jungle itself stepped in and turned the entire fight on its head. You do not just stroll into the Virunga Mountains on a quiet morning and expect to end up staring down the ugliest leg infection you have ever seen on a 500-pound gorilla. But that is exactly where I was. I had barely unpacked my kit when I heard Isaac, one of our rangers, yell my name like his lungs were on fire. I ran toward the sound and found her, a fully grown female, lying on her side, breathing hard, her left leg swollen like it had swallowed a melon. The abscess was angry, hot to the touch, and smelled like trouble. You could tell she had been dragging that leg for days, maybe weeks. I crouched slowly, letting her get my scent. Her troop watched from the bushes, big eyes, low rumbles, like a family deciding if they should trust me or rip me in half. Isaac stood between us and the path, his hand on his radio, because if the silverback got the wrong idea, we were done. This has to be treated now, I told him, unzipping the medical kit. If the infection moves up, she will not make it. And then, because the universe has a sense of humor, the sound of motorbikes broke the morning air. Three men in dusty jackets rolled up like they owned the place. They carried machetes and burlap sacks, and their eyes locked on the gorilla like she was nothing more than prize money. "Get out of here," Isaac barked. "This is a protected area." One of them laughed, the kind of laugh that makes you want to wash your ears. Protected? By who? You? They were not here to talk. Every second I spent arguing was a second the infection kept winning. So I ignored them, slipped on gloves, and slid the needle in to sedate her. Isaac stepped forward, blocking their path. "This land is not yours, and neither are these animals," he said. His voice was steady, but I knew he was counting the minutes until backup could get here. The lead man took a step closer, machete low at his side. "We will see about that." I cleaned the wound fast, flushing out pus and dirt, my hands working while my brain screamed that this could go bad in 100 different ways. The gorilla's breathing eased, her body relaxing under the sedative. But the men did not move. One of them shifted his grip on the machete, and I saw it. The moment words were about to stop mattering. That was when my heart decided it was a good time to start pounding like a war drum. Isaac's stance shifted. His feet were planted, shoulders squared, the universal, "you're not getting past me" posture. The three men didn't care. One twirled his machete like he was testing its weight. Another scanned the bushes as if calculating how many gorillas they could grab before anyone stopped them. I tightened the bandage on the gorilla's leg, keeping my voice low and steady. "Almost done, girl. Hang in there." She blinked slowly, her chest rising and falling under the sedation, but I could feel the tension in her muscles. She knew danger was close. Then, from the thicket, a young male gorilla burst out, pounding his chest and snarling. He planted himself between us and the men. It wasn't a bluff. His movement said, "Touch her and you'll deal with me first." The leader smirked, glancing over his shoulder. A sharp whistle cut through the air. From the ridge, two more men appeared, each with a net rolled tight in their hands. That was when I realized this wasn't a random encounter. They had planned this. "This is an international sanctuary," I said, rising to my feet. My words were slow, deliberate. "Taking these animals is a crime that will not disappear just because you think you're far from the city." "City law doesn't reach here," the leader replied, eyes narrowing. One of the net men stepped forward, unfolding his weapon with a flick. Isaac moved with him, grabbing the handle before it could be thrown. The two of them locked in a silent, ugly struggle, feet grinding into the dirt. That was when the deep, rolling growl started. It came from somewhere behind me, low enough to rattle in my ribs. The silverback, the troop's patriarch, had stepped onto the path. His size made the men freeze. He didn't run or roar. He just stood there, arms hanging loose, watching with eyes that made it very clear he had no intention of backing down. One of the poachers took a step back. The leader didn't. "You think we're scared of a monkey?" he spat. The silverback moved forward a single step, and the air changed. Every instinct I had screamed to stay perfectly still. Even Isaac froze. The poachers were now trapped between a wall of muscle and the knowledge that the sound of boots was starting to echo from further down the trail. The patrol was getting close. The leader glanced toward the sound. He knew his time was running out. And when cornered men realize they're about to lose, that's when they do the most dangerous thing they can think of. The leader's eyes darted from the silverback to the tightening ring of sound coming from the trail. He gripped his machete and lunged, not at me, at the gorilla. The silverback reacted before I could blink. He surged forward, shoving the man sideways into the dirt. One of the others hurled his net, and it landed squarely over me and the injured female. The cords tightened fast, biting into my arms. The gorilla groaned, twisting under the weight of the net, while my own pulse slammed in my ears. Isaac tore the machete from the leader's hands, shoving him back. "You're done here," he shouted, his voice carrying over the chaos. But the other two poachers pulled the net tighter, dragging us toward the path. And then the patrol exploded into the clearing, 3 rangers in full stride. One went straight for the net, cutting it loose with a swift motion. Another engaged the 2 netmen, forcing them back. The leader tried to run, but the silverback blocked him, standing tall and silent as if daring him to try. When the last strand of the net fell away, I scrambled to check the female's leg. The bandage held, and she pushed herself upright, leaning on her good leg. She turned her head toward me, holding my gaze for several long seconds. There was no panic in her eyes now, only recognition. The rangers cuffed the men and led them away down the trail. Isaac exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. "You all right?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said, though my hands were still shaking. "She's the one who matters." Over the following weeks, the female healed in our care. Word of the incident spread far beyond the mountains. Footage from that day, the moment the silverback stepped between us and the poachers, traveled through news stations and social media. People saw not just an endangered animal, but a protector, a leader who would not allow harm to come to his own. And me, I learned something that day. You can prepare for a crisis, you can train for emergencies, but when the moment comes, it's courage, from both humans and animals, that changes the outcome. She returned to her family in the forest, and I returned to my work, knowing that somewhere out there, a troop of gorillas remembered the day we stood together against the odds.